In these notes, we're going to focus just on polynomial long division. In the first polynomial long division notes, part 1, we did some long division with just numbers, and then we translated it into polynomial long division. Here, we're just going to focus on long division, but I'm going to show you another form to use called quotient remainder form. So make sure you have your heading here. We're going to start off with a review from the last lesson and hopefully clarify it a little bit better. Here's going to be our example, so I'll give you a second to copy that down. This is a review from the last lesson. It says rewrite as an equivalent multiplication equation. So while you're writing this down, what we're going to do is use long division to divide this top polynomial by the bottom. And then when we're done, we're going to rewrite the top as an equation saying that it equals x plus 8 times whatever the quotient is, whatever we get when we divide. So the way to set this up is we're going to have a division bar. And underneath the division goes the top of the polynomial, so 2x squared, top of the fraction, 2x squared plus 9x minus 54. In front of it, we're going to put an x plus 8. That's what we're dividing by. So if you missed the last lesson, let me explain what we did. In order to divide polynomials, you are comparing the first terms of each. So you're comparing what you're dividing by into what you're dividing into. So you say to yourselves, what times x is going to make that 2x squared? That's what we put at the top. Well, x times 2x is 2x squared, so I'm going to put a 2x at the top. It doesn't matter where we put it. We are now going to distribute that 2x to both of those terms and put that underneath. So 2x times x is 2x squared. If it matches, we can keep going. If it just doesn't, we have to start over. 2x times 8 is a positive 16x, so I'm going to put plus 16x here. Now what we need to do is cancel out what's in common and write what's left. So in order to do that, we're going to change the sign. So this is going to become a minus 2x squared. This becomes a negative 16x squared because we're subtracting them. The 2x squares canceled out. That's what we wanted. And now we're going to write what's left. 9 minus 16 is negative 7, so we have negative 7x. Now I have to bring down the next term because we have two terms that we're dividing by, which means we need two terms to divide into. So I'm going to bring down that minus 54. Now we say to ourselves, what times x gives us the first term, negative 7x? Well, that would be a negative 7. So up top, we're going to put a minus 7. Then what we do underneath is we're going to multiply the x plus 8 times what we just wrote, negative 7. So x times negative 7 is negative 7x. 8 times negative 7 is negative 56. Our first two terms match, which is what we want. So in order to write what's left, we're going to change the signs of what we just wrote. So this negative 7x becomes plus 7x. This minus 56 becomes plus 56 because we're subtracting what we see. The 7x's cancel out, and we should just be left with a constant, a number. Negative 54 plus 56 is a positive 2. Our equivalent multiplication equation is going to be, we start off with our polynomial. So we would write 2x squared plus 9x minus 54. We are going to put what it equals when we divided. So we divided by x plus 8, so that goes in parentheses. When we divided, we got what's up here at the top, so we're going to put that in parentheses next to it. If we had a remainder of 0, nothing left over, this would be our answer. But we have a positive 2 left over, so at the end of this, we're going to put a plus 2. There is our multiplication equation that's equivalent. Now what we're going to do is rewrite this answer in quotient remainder form. So let me talk about that, what that's going to be. So I'm going to write quotient remainder form. And it's Q-U-O-T-I-E-N-T, and then remainder form. So we're going to do the same thing in this lesson, just write the answer a little bit differently. So this is what it means. When you divide two polynomials, that's like our top divided by bottom fraction, you can write the result in the form And I'm going to have you write q of x plus r over x minus a. Let me explain that. So quotient remainder form is we're going to write it in this form. And this is what these parts mean. Where q of x is a polynomial, and that's our quotient. So I'm going to put quotient in parentheses. That would be like what we get at the top of our division problem. And r is the remainder. And that's always going to be a number, a constant number. So I'm just going to put in parentheses a constant. That just means a number. So I'm going to have us rewrite the answer we just had above when we divided in quotient remainder form. So we just did example A. I'm going to write this as example B. Can you write for example B, express your answer from example A, express your answer in example A in quotient remainder form. Quotient remainder form. And I'll show you what that looks like. So we're doing exactly the same as we did on the previous notes, what we did above, but we're just writing the answer a little differently. Quotient remainder form means you're going to take the quotient, so that's what you got on the top of your division. So that would be this right here, your 2x minus 7. So I'm going to write 2x minus 7. That is your quotient, your q of x. Then we're going to add our remainder. So our remainder was 2, so we're going to put plus 2. But that's going to go over this x minus a. What that means is what we divided by. If you look at this example, we divided by x plus 8. So we would just write over x plus 8. That is your quotient remainder form. That's your quotient, what you got as your answer when you divided, and this is what's left over. And you just put what you divided by underneath. So what we're going to do now is 3 examples where we're doing polynomial long division, and we're going to leave our answer in this form, quotient remainder form. So I'm going to take this off and give you the directions. We'll only write them once this time. So here's the directions for the next part. This is going to be C. Can you write each in the form q of x plus r over x minus a. That just means we're going to write it in quotient remainder form. And we've got 3 examples. So here's example 1. Our fraction is going to have at the top x squared plus 2x minus 5. We're going to start off fairly simple. We are going to divide that by x minus 3. So we are going to use long division now. So what we're going to do is make our division sign. We put the top of the polynomial underneath. So we have x squared plus 2x minus 5. In front of it, we're going to put what we're dividing by, x minus 3. So the same lesson, except for this time we're just writing our answer different. So now we compare the first 2 terms. X times what gives us x squared? That would be x. So I'm going to put an x at the top. Now I'm going to multiply all of this by x. So x times x is x squared. It matches, so I can keep going. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. In order to cancel stuff out, we're going to change the sign. So this becomes a minus. This minus 3x becomes a plus 3x. Because when you're subtracting, it changes the sign. Our x squares cancel. 2 plus 3 is 5, so we have 5x. We now bring down the next term. So I'm going to bring down this minus 5. I'm now comparing the first 2 terms. So I want this x to be 5x. So we say to ourselves, what times x gives us 5x? That would be 5. It's positive, so we would put plus 5 up here. We are now going to multiply 5 times both of these terms. X times 5 is 5x. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. The first 2 terms match, so we can keep going. I'm going to change the signs. So this 5x becomes a minus, this 15 becomes a plus. I cross out my first 2 terms. Negative 5 plus 15 is 10. That's a constant. No letters are left, so I'm done. I'm going to rewrite this in quotient remainder form. So what I do is I take what I had at the top of my answer. So we have x plus 5. And then I'm going to put my remainder over what I divided by. So my remainder was a positive 10. So I'm going to do plus 10. And I divided by x minus 3. So x minus 3 goes underneath. That's quotient remainder form. Let's try the next one, number 2. Our fraction. On the top, we have 2x squared minus 23x plus 17. And underneath, we have x minus 10. So we're going to do long division and then write our answer in quotient remainder form. So here's my division sign. I'm going to put my polynomial from the top underneath. So I have 2x squared minus 23x plus 17. I'm going to divide it by x minus 10, so that goes in the front. All right, so now I'm going to compare. I want this first term to be this first term. X times what gives us 2x squared? That would be 2x. So I'm going to put a 2x on the top. Now I'm going to distribute. 2x times x is 2x squared. I put it underneath the first. 2x times a negative 10 is a negative 20x. Now I'm going to combine by changing the signs of what I just wrote. So this 2x squared becomes a minus. This minus 20x becomes a plus. The 2x squares cancel out like we wanted. I'm going to combine negative 23x plus 20x is negative 3x. Now I bring down the next term. That was a plus 17, so I bring down my plus 17. I compare the first two terms. X times what gives us negative 3x? That would be a negative 3, so I'm going to put minus 3 at the top. Now what do? We're going to multiply this x minus 10 by negative 3. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x. They match, which is what we want. Negative 10 times negative 3 is a positive 30. They don't have to match. Before I combine, I change my signs of what I just wrote. So this becomes a plus, this 30 becomes a minus. My two first terms cancel out. 17 minus 30 is a negative 13. So I have a remainder this time of a negative, which is okay when we're dealing with polynomials. So to rewrite it in quotient remainder form, there's my quotient. So I bring down 2x minus 3. My remainder is a minus 13. So I'm going to put minus instead of plus, and my 13 goes on the top. I put it over what I divided by. I divided by x minus 10. So that x minus 10 goes underneath. There's your quotient remainder form. One more, a little bit longer. I'm going to do that on another page so I don't run out of room. This will be example 3. Take this off. Last one. We have our fraction. On the top, we have 2x cubed minus 13x squared plus 14x plus 22. A little bit longer. Underneath, we're going to divide it by x minus 4. I do want to point out that if we saw an example like this, if we had x cubed minus 5x plus 8, and then we were dividing it by, let's say, x plus 7. When we would make our division, this is just a side note, we are missing an exponent. So what we would have to do is put x cubed. We're missing an x squared, so I would just put 0x squared because we need it as a placeholder. Then we can put the rest, because when we're dividing, you need every single exponent listed, and we'll see that later on. All right, so let's set up the one I have in our notes. So I'm going to have my division sign. Hopefully you know what goes underneath. That is going to be the top of the fraction, so 2x cubed. I see all exponents, so minus 13x squared plus 14x plus 22. What do I put in front of it? That's what I'm dividing by, so x minus 4. All right, here we go. We're comparing the first two terms. X times what gives you 2x cubed? That would be 2x squared, so I put 2x squared at the top. It doesn't matter where you put it on the top. Now you multiply both of these by 2x squared. X times 2x squared, 2x cubed. They match. 2x squared times negative 4 is negative 8x to the, negative 4 times 2x squared is negative 8x squared. This is why you would need a placeholder, because you cannot have unmatching exponents. To combine, you change the signs of the second polynomial. So I put a minus and a plus. My 2x cubes cancel out, which is what we wanted. If I combine negative 13 plus 8, that becomes negative 5. So I have negative 5x squared. What do we do now? We bring down the next term. So I'm going to bring down the plus 14x. If you're dividing by two terms, you need two terms here. Compare the first terms. X times what gives you negative 5x squared? That would be negative 5x. So I'm going to put minus 5x at the top. We are going to multiply this by negative 5x. So negative 5x times x is negative 5x squared. It matches. Negative 5x times negative 4 is a positive 20x, so plus 20x. Before I combine, I change the signs of what I just wrote, so this becomes a plus. The 20x becomes a minus. My 5x squares cancel out. I combine what's left. 14 minus 20 is negative 6, so we have negative 6x. I still have a term left, so I need to bring that down. So now I'm bringing down plus 22. I compare the first two terms. X times what gives us negative 6x? That would be negative 6, so I put negative 6 at the top. Let's multiply by negative 6. Negative 6 times x is negative 6x. They match. Negative 6 times negative 4 is a positive 24. Now I'm going to change my signs. So this becomes a positive, 24 becomes a negative. My 6x's cancel out. I never should have a letter left over. 22 minus 24 is a negative 2. So now I'm ready for my quotient remainder form. Quotient is what we got on the top. So we're going to write 2x squared minus 5x minus 6. At the end is going to be a fraction. So it's our remainder over what we divided. The remainder is negative, so I'm going to put minus 2. And we divided by x minus 4, so that goes underneath our remainder. There's your quotient remainder form. Please make sure you submit these notes into Canvas to get credit for this assignment.